everybody. It is prime time on the East Coast, at least 8 o'clock Eastern time. My name is Scott Morgan off the Motor City Madmouth. This is a Pundits Pundit. I have a great crew today. Happy birthday, George Eichhorn. We know you're not here. But you know what? We have somebody who I know is going to do, as Jimmy Walker would say, a dynamite job.
Dynamite!
Yeah, but yeah, come on, Christopher. I say it better than you. I'm older, that's why. I remember the so good times. But anyway, I want to welcome James Tatum to the broadcast. And James, I want you to give everybody an overview of what you're doing, more of an introduction, then I'll go with the regular crew, and then I'll turn over to Denzel when the situation presents itself. All right, Denzel? All right, go ahead. James.
Hello, everyone. My name is James Tatum. I'm from Philadelphia. I am the president of recruiting and personnel with Sideline Sports. It's basically my job to bring people to Sideline Sports who are interested in sports media and want to be a part of our team and learn all kinds of different things about what we do and, you know, what we've done in the field at the Super Bowl, at all the events that we've covered and all the athletes that we talk to and, you know, anybody that is interested in that as well. And I'm the creator of The Gauntlet, which is our show on the network on Friday nights. So we'll have another episode tomorrow night with myself and Jay and the rest of the crew. JJ will be there. He's a fan favorite. But, yeah, I pretty much just do what I do, and, you know, that's it. I keep it simple.
And James Tatum will be an occasional fill-in when somebody's unable to make the show. So I'm glad that this was an opportunity where George Eichhorn had a birthday, he can leave feeling pretty good. And now we have James Tatum that we were able to fit in very nicely so this transition smooth. Let's go to the rest of our crew before I turn it over to them. But before I do that, I want to let everybody know that the Pundits Pundit is being broadcast around the world. The audio version of Pundits Pundit can be heard on iHeartRadio, Apple, Spotify, Google, wherever you get your podcast. Please hit the red subscribe button on YouTube, South Florida Tribune. We're striving for more subscribers. Please also comment, like, and share the broadcast. Want to be a guest? No problem. Please send your topic ideas, southfloridatribune@gmail.com. If you want to advertise cost officially, give me a call at 954-304-4941. We broadcast live on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. Our website's www.southfloridatribune.com, Twitter/X @Tribune South. Candy Evelyn behind the scenes also producing the show. And I have a book out there called Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. And it's pretty much old school media versus new school media. It can be purchased on Kindle and Amazon, and you see it in the right-hand screen. All right, now I'll introduce the crew, and then I'll turn it over to Denzel. All right, Denzel, speak of the man. Welcome back.
Hey, what's going on? You know, interesting factoid about the whole JJ Dynamite thing is John Amos played Jimmy Walker's father, of course, James Evans and JJ Evans on Good Time, despite only being 8 years older than Jimmy Walker. That's crazy.
Yeah, well, when you have a guy who I think Jimmy Walker is what I consider the Good Time version of the pogo stick. What do you expect? You can see where the age might be a little different there. All right, we'll bring it over to Jacob Christner.
Well, he's built like a pogo stick for one thing. So that was just a big deal right there. No, it was one of my favorite shows, actually, and a big fan of John Amos. But happy birthday, George. I'm happy you're having your night off, everything like that, but don't do anything we wouldn't do. But then again, we don't go to bed at 7 o'clock at night.
I'm not really worried about him doing that. Mark my word. I give you 44 reasons why I don't think you have to worry about that question. But that said, I'll turn over to Denzel Snipes. Go ahead and take over.
All right, let's go ahead and get started with our first topic. And shout out to the chat room, Will Vogues in the chat. Blessed to be a part of Sideline and South Florida Tribune and the Jeremy B Show. Awesome. Wasn't my nickname Pogo Stick? Wasn't that his nickname on basketball?
Well, that actually was. But it was. But I didn't want to go ahead and mention it to Will Vogel because he was upset, so I decided to call Jimmy Walker the Pogo Stick. If you want to call yourself Will, then you really matured because you were taking it the wrong reasons. It was really just a cute little nickname, but we didn't want to go ahead and upset the Will man. No way. Yeah. So that's why I called Jimmy Walker Pogo Stick. And Will, you interpret that any way you want to because that is that. All right, back to the sniper.
All right, and so with that being said, let's go ahead and get started with our first topic. So, this isn't going to be too easy for one person on this panel. Then again, it might be. because you've heard his takes on the gauntlet with me and James Tatum and all the other ones. So the Chicago Bears actually, it turns out, has been the third worst team of the last 20 years. What went wrong? So a couple of notes here. Since 1996, they've only had 7 winning seasons to 16 losing seasons. They have not won a playoff game since 2010. And they have yet to yield in their entire history a 4,000-yard passer in their history. And also keep in mind, despite being the third worst team, they have a Super Bowl appearance somehow. Like that's crazy, right? But I want to swing it to our resident Bears fan, Jacob Christner, and get your. I'm pretty sure during this take you're going to invent something, some new insult to the Bears fans or something. I don't know. I'm just interested in hearing your take. Please take it away. What went wrong with the Bears in the last?
You forgot two Super Bowls they ran to. They won one. I did this because I wrote it on. It's on Sideline Sports. It's gonna be on Sideline Sports. It's gonna be on South Florida Tribune. It's my 530,000 page whatever I get on this deal. My column coming up. But it interested me because the last 20 years they have a 397 winning percentage, which is funny because Lovie Smith was there for 4 of their 10 win seasons. And they still have a 397 winning percentage.
His last season, they went 10-6. Go ahead.
Yeah, right. Exactly. This is where everybody right now is bringing up Caleb Williams. They're bringing up, and I'm not going to do a personal thing on Caleb Williams to do anything. I don't want any of the draft picks. You've heard me on this. I don't want any of them. I want personally to me, I want a free agent and then go get a lower draft pick to develop them with Tyson Bagent. Just work with that, start it down. But the problem I've got with all of this is like all of my stuff, my column starts 20 years. All of a sudden they show a thing that's 20 years. They've got 397 winning percentage. Where does it go wrong? Where it goes wrong is it is infrastructure. I mean, James, you've got a really good team in Philly. It's why when I get become like the brother or the dad or whatever, remind when you get frustrated, realize I would love to be in your position right now, even if you're struggling and you're 11-6 or whatever, after the fact when you started 10-1. I'd love to be in your position no matter what that is. I'd love to, because you've got a Super Bowl in 17, made it made a few years later, and then made a playoff. I'd love to be there. And we'd be able to get that. And then you get Kansas City, goes without saying. Everybody brings up, but Mahomes could have been in Chicago with Fox, with Dow Loggins. But here's the thing. They would have had, if it wasn't for Jay Cutler, they would have had Bruce Arians. That's when you get Patrick Mahomes. These are the things I bring up. It's an infrastructure built on wet sand. See, you can build the house. Once in a while, you get your Super Bowls. Once in a while, you get your playoffs, but it never lasts. And that's where the problem lies.
Yeah, indeed. And also keep in mind during that time period, I didn't count the Super Bowl because it was the last 20 years. Super Bowl win was back in 85. But shoot, they made a championship game with Jay freaking Cutler, something you thought you'd never see in this lifetime, right?
And he quit.
Yeah, and it seems like something unfortunate just kind of hit y'all, either Cutler getting injured in the AFC Championship game, or even, and with this, I'm going to segue to James Tatum on this one, because you watched your Eagles escape Soldier Field off of the double doink, the Cody Parkey double doink,
yep.
and yours truly, Nick Foles, was playing that game. But what do you think? Bears, third worst team in the last 20 years? Obvious, level of inconsistency throughout the years. Give us your thoughts on that.
No, they're not. If you're asking if they're the worst team of the last 20 years, the simple answer is no. Because the Cleveland Browns are probably the worst team in the last 20 years. They've been much better recently, but we can't forget all the years. They had a year they went 0-16. The Bears have never been all the way that low. And, so that's why I have to say no. But the question really shouldn't be like what went wrong with the Bears. The question should be like, what didn't go wrong with the Bears? What have the Bears even done right? I can't really think of too many things that they have done right. So the infrastructure point that Jacob brought up is very important, because a lot of the good teams that you see winning games and being consistent, they do have that. And the Chicago Bears do not have that. They seem to be stuck in their own old philosophies of, trying to build a team that has a strong defense, and then you just try to, run the ball and do this and play this old school brand of football. And, that's not what wins football games in the modern NFL. Having Matt Eberflus as your head coach is not going to get you very far. So even if you take Caleb Williams or take Jaden Daniels or one of these quarterbacks, how far are you really going to get? Because you don't really have the infrastructure in place, and you don't really have the guys that are going to work with him and develop him like Andy Reid did with Patrick Mahomes, yada, yada, yada. So I just think the Bears are just not a really well-ran organization. And, based off of the history, you don't really see how that's going to change. And until you actually have something to go off and say, yes, the Bears are turning the page on that, I really wouldn't have too much high expectations of this team, no matter who they end up taking with the number one pick.
Yes. All good points. All great points. It's ironic, Jacob, and we brought this up before. If the Bears had drafted Patrick Mahomes, then he would have been with with Matt Nagy, and then for Fox, he would have been with Matt Nagy also. And the talk was, Nagy would have ruined him. It's crazy because he ended up with Nagy anyway and winning 2 rings. But the key is he wasn't the head coach.
He was with the enemy. He was with the enemy. Matt, you're
he
right
was with Andy Reid.
Yeah,
he wasn't the main guy. He's with Andy.
Whoever's the offensive coordinator, whether it was the Eagles or the Chiefs, Andy Reid is running the offense. And I just want everyone to know.
You're correct. It's like here's my main thing that I'm saying. The team, they get mad. The fans get mad with Mitchell Trubisky. The team's built for Mitchell Trubisky, the type. They're built for. You want to know what that means by it? It's the same as Kyle Orton. When they say you're built for it, it means a team that runs the ball, a great defense. It has let's see, like a Devin Hester type. Special teams. It has all kinds. It runs a full. I remember the game. There was 2 wins out of 4 for Tyson Bagent. One of them was the Raiders game. They won 32-6. That was all kinds of everything. That was all 4 of the things hit perfectly. That's what the Bears have to do to win when you have it. They're built for those types. They're okay. They weren't built for Pat Mahomes. They're built for Mitchell Trubisky. It is true. Is Mitchell Trubisky a Hall of Famer ever, even if he was better? No, he's not. But you're built for it. You're built for somebody. He's not a star, but he's part of a system that would win something if a defense helps. And he does his job, and he makes his plays. That's what Kyle Orton was in the same boat. All you needed was a Kyle Orton for that Super Bowl we talked about. All you needed was that someone that wasn't going to make mistakes. He would have made 145 yards and a touchdown too, but there wouldn't have been the mistakes with it. That's the thing. If you're built, they were not built to go head to head with Peyton Manning.
Yeah,
you're built to do that. That's my point about it. It's like they keep trying to pretend. They keep playing pretend. They need to build it. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. I definitely see the philosophy where you're coming from because, look at Jim McMahon. It worked for him. The year they won the Super Bowl, that was his only Pro Bowl. Literally, that was the best McMahon his whole career. And great guy, by the way. I ended up taking a picture with him down at the Super Bowl week. But I want to round this out with Scott and get your thoughts about this from the last 20 years. Just give us your thoughts on what you've seen from the Bears and what they perhaps need to do better.
Well, there's a reason why I like you, Tatum, because you're going to learn the acronym GMTA really quick. You know what that stands for, James? When he does his abracadabra alakazam, and then you can see the look in my face here, 4 eyes with the Motor City Mad Mouth hat. GMTA happens to stand for Great Minds Think Alike, James. And that's exactly what happened. Okay, what actually has gone right for the Bears? Not a whole lot. think about it, right? Not a whole lot's gone right. Now, Jacob, to preface on what you're saying, okay, Kyle Orton's a game manager.
Mm-hmm.
So is Trent Dilfer. But guess what?
Mm-hmm.
Dilfer won a Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
No crime in winning a Super Bowl being a game manager. Okay, not at all. Right? I mean, game managers do win. You have good defense. All you have to do is just win.
Yeah.
Don't tell me that Brian Billick was an offensive genius, because he wasn't. Now, it's amazing that the only job he ended up getting with the Baltimore Ravens, he never got hired again, because maybe flash and dash with offense wasn't everybody's regiment, and he was a defensive guy. But all he did was what a lot of coaches haven't done, win a Super Bowl. But when you put things in their proper perspective in Chicago, they are built on running the football. They're built on defense. And, you know, let's just say the curse of Jim McMahon. You can blame Matt Eberflus as not being the right hire, but they had a chance to get Brian Flores, too, who actually did a pretty good job out in Miami. And I'm still boggled why he hasn't gotten one, although perhaps that lawsuit against the NFL has left a bad taste in his mouth, although he's getting interviews. So maybe one of these times he'll get rehired again. But the Chicago Bears problem really has been the consistency. Is there, you know, you can draft a quarterback every few years. Justin Fields isn't the problem in Chicago.
Right.
Okay. It's the talent that you don't have around him. You just can't take a quarterback and have him running for his life. That isn't fair. It isn't. You know, if he wants to sue for lack of security, okay, you could do it, Justin. Okay. And then maybe you do need to play on another field, because Soldier Field isn't going to be your home if the Bears have their way and take the less expensive option, run what they're going to end up doing. And it's now that Caleb Williams saying, I didn't want to play in Chicago. Oh, give me a break, pal. If you have enough guts here to tell me that you didn't want to play in Chicago, show me that John Elway, who said, I'm not playing in Baltimore, backed it up, forced his way to a trade with Denver. How did that work out? And that was a question I asked him when I covered my Super Bowl 33. And Elway loved it, because all the 9 million media that were at that one didn't even come up with it all week. You know, They didn't. And John Elway loved it, because, hey, I'm talking about all this thing with Reeves and all that. But he asked me about the Irsay, Jim, okay? Not Jim, but Robert, the bigger drunk than the other guy, right? And Jim Irsay's done a good job, but Robert Irsay ran him out of town pretty quickly. So what's wrong with the Chicago Bears? They've been consistently inconsistent with the front office, you have the coach, and the quarterback. If you're not all on the same page, you got a problem. All right, let's go to the chat room, and your responsibility on this program, Jacob Christopher, okay, is to read the content in it. And we'll start off with the Vogel man. Go ahead.
The Bears have struggled to hit on draft picks lately, in my opinion, like Trubisky. Quit it with that. And others. Bears haven't been consistently good back-to-back years for a while. And like I was saying, I agree with James. Bears aren't worse the last 20 years. It's the Browns, maybe the Jets. But no, this is the point I'm saying, Will, and you're correct on that type of thing. Trubisky was never going to be that guy, but when Tom Brady's around, I'm not saying he would have been a Bear, all the fans ever wanted to look at was 5 years past his prime Cam Newton, for 5 years past his prime highlights, and Tom Brady was available.
But
you get the
Jacob,
point.
Where you're getting it wrong is the Bears had to trade up to get him. They didn't have to trade up to get him, did they? I think they ended up giving up draft capital. So when you're trading up to get a guy like that who could have very been available, then who gets the wrong end of that trade? So I understand we're not going to turn this into an all Trubisky show, because I'm sure we have other meaningful topics to get around to. But we want to just try to put into the question why they've been irrelevant for the last and it's a combination of things. There's a lot of organizations, they're just as good at being irrelevant as they are relevant, right? They've been bad for a long time. There's a reason. You follow the formula. Some just don't hire the big name coaches. They're afraid to go out there and do it. Let me give you an interesting point for a lot of our audience that may be a little bit older than I am, okay? Once upon a time, the Detroit Lions had 2 opportunities to get Chuck Knox. And he was a former assistant with the Lions, and he ended up winning with the Rams, and he didn't get him. One of those hires was Monty Clark. Oh, my goodness. So, oh, my God. No, we're not talking Monty Hall. Let's make a deal. We're talking about Monty Clark, okay? Let's go out there and pray for a field goal that never happened in Candlestick Park, okay? So some organizations are just good at getting it wrong, and some are good at getting it right. It just so happens, unfortunately, the Bears, the Lions, the Browns, all the ones that haven't been in the Super Bowl are the ones that are good at getting it wrong. Does that mean that the fortunes will change for these teams? Probably at some point or another later. I don't know if I'll be alive to see some of it, but I can tell you right now, that's just the way it is. I mean, Chicago's a great sports town. It really has. It's a great football history. All you got to do is look at the number of Hall of Famers in there, right? Ever heard of Walter Payton? He was pretty good. What about Dick Butkus? Pretty good. And the list goes on and on. Gale Sayers, pretty good, right? I mean,
and remember, they had Gale Sayers and Dick Butkus in the back-to-back draft and still couldn't make a playoff.
Yeah, I remember seeing him.
That was a very, 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 very long time ago, though.
Well, yeah, exactly. Like I say, some of the people on this show wouldn't be old enough to even think about that. In fact, when the Lions won their last championship, it was on my birthday on December 29th, 1957. But the only problem with that, guys, I wasn't even born. 5 years later, I was born. End of story, end of conversation. Reality is it's a great topic. Good luck, Bears. We'll see if you can get it right. I can tell you right now, though, if ever Floss doesn't get it right this time, then there's a lot of coaches that will be out there ready to take that job next year. It'll be a good job. Now the question is whether Caleb Williams will be a bust, because the only reason they're going to draft him is you're going to start the draft clock on him, the entry-level contract again, because it's an inexpensive option for 3 years.
Oh, God.
Right. There you go, Jacob. I knew I'd make you feel. I knew I would ruin his appetite. I didn't have to worry about it. I didn't have to.
Get me Kirk Cousins and get it over with.
Yeah, okay. Okay, all right, back to Denzel. You have another topic. So go ahead.
So.
Yeah. All right. Moving along here. So our next topic here actually is a pretty interesting one. So NFLPA team report cards. How much do they matter? How much weight do they really hold? So anyone who hasn't, and the list is actually out now. It's been circulating on Twitter, on X. So it goes in different categories. It goes by facility, coaching staff. This is rating like all of the teams and stadiums and all its facilities. It goes by facility, coaching staff, dieting, training, locker room, weight room, team travel, and ownership. And they just kind of round everything up, and then it spits out a grade. So in the top 10, number 10 was Chicago, 9 Las Vegas, 8 New York Giants, 7 Houston, 6 San Francisco, 5 Jacksonville, 4 Philadelphia, 3 Green Bay, 2 Minnesota, and 1 was Miami. So how much weight should it hold? And we'll start off with our guest down here, James Tatum. Me personally, I'm not exactly sure if it's going to factor into a player, like if they were on the trade block and he had his choice and where he wanted to go, free agency, wherever. It depends on where he's at in his career. If he's a little on the tail end and he might ring chase, he might not care about any of this. You know, who's in the best position to win the Super Bowl right now. But if it's somebody a little bit more younger, he may care. Maybe he's already won a title, like a Tyreek Hill. Hey, perfect example. Tyreek Hill won with the Chiefs, got traded to Miami. Maybe this factored into this decision. I don't know. But we'll start off with James Tatum, and let's get your thoughts on how much do NFLPA team report cards really weigh? Go ahead.
I think it's extremely important. I think it shows you how these organizations are, what they're about, and how they treat players is very important. Just like anybody on this panel has probably experienced your employers treating you like crap, and you didn't like that job, and you probably left to go somewhere else where they did treat you that way. And some of the teams on the list have been very, very bad to some of the players. Like, for example, I want to bring up the Chargers, and this may cause you guys to disagree or whatever, but I really don't like the fact that, you know, they charge players. They're one of 2 teams that charges players to have a daycare for their children.
I read about that.
The only other team that does it is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and the rest of the league is free. So you're generating so much revenue and money for the team, and the team is not even accommodating what you do and all your hard work. That's kind of like how employers would, you could break the biggest sales record, and then here you go, here's a pizza party. We're like, we appreciate you. You know, it's kind of like a FU to the face. So I think that it does matter, and I think people will say that a team like the Chiefs is not very high on the list. I don't remember where they are, but they're not in the top 10 or the top 15. but they're still winning Super Bowls, and people are like, "Oh, what's going on? Why are the Chiefs so low?" Well, just because you're a winning organization doesn't mean like everyone likes being around you. Doesn't mean it's fun and all this stuff. And being in Kansas City, like actually being there and living there, is not fun. That's why Kansas City is low. That's why Miami is high, even though Miami's not winning. So I do think there's a few things that you got to factor into it, but I think it matters. I think it matters more than people say.
James, let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
You ever eaten a barbecue in Kansas City?
Yes, I have. I was there during the NFL draft last year
I'm gonna tell you,
with my man John Shear. We went to a barbecue restaurant, and our guy Will Stein from the Gary Stein and Steven show shows up in the restaurant, and his hair was a disaster. He looked like a troll doll standing around in there. So yeah, it was really damn good too. But
yeah, that's exactly why Andy Reid is in really good Andy Reid shape, because of the barbecue. By the way, I've been there before, and I think their barbecue is the best I've ever seen. So just curious.
I think it is too. I will have to say.
Just like Andy Reid to barbecue is like Tommy Lasorda is to Italian food.
Yeah,
you can't take it away from either dude. Yeah, no, most definitely great solid points. It is absolutely important as far as how you get treated. And again, because like you look, there's some. So a while ago, there was a discussion. I won't go into details, but the topic came up: do athletes chase the city sometimes? Sometimes, yes, they do. You look at Miami, it's a global city. I mean, it's Miami, Florida, right? There's some people who do chase the city. Some people who say, like, I remember when Willis McGahee was drafted out of the University of Miami. He got drafted to the Bills. You know what he said? Only thing I know about Buffalo is snow and wings. That's it. He was worried that there wouldn't be anything to do because, well, he's from Miami, Florida, right? So yeah. Yeah, and so there are some athletes that do chase the city overall, but absolutely, how the facility is and how you get treated, most definitely how you get treated, does a factor in a lot. And to your point, James, look at the New England Patriots. They were winning all these years. Tom couldn't stand playing for Bill, so there's another factor as well. But I want to take it to Jacob real fast to get your thoughts about this. How much do NFLPA team report cards weigh?
I think it's going to start doing that just because there are. Just remember the big thing about it: treatment facilities, food and cafeteria. Food and cafeteria, nutritionist, locker room, training staff, weight room, strength coaches, travel, head coach, and ownership.
Yeah.
So they're going to be looking at those things. Now I'm going to go to all of our teams here with the thing. I'm not going to go through all 32. Number 7, Houston. You're going to like this. All categories, and the only team that had every player feel they had an individualized plan for their dietitian. They would like to add a steam room and a sauna. Every other team in the league has that.
Yeah.
Oh, listen to this. My Bears. Basically, 22 other teams are getting outflanked by a 101-year-old woman. But
craziness.
After last year's survey, the Bears began providing game day daycare. So this is they were charging for daycare. Until
they were, but not anymore. Yeah.
Let's see. The Bears continue to have a highly ranked locker room, weight room, and training room. But players identify they need a healthier food. This is the thing I'm saying with these teams. How are you an NFL team with the high-end athletes and you don't think, oh, you know something? We're going to get them burgers.
Yeah. Fried chicken and pizza.
Yeah. No kidding. It's like Detroit, by the way, Scott, Detroit. They love working with Dan Campbell, with respondents calling out his willingness to listen in the locker room. They hired a new training staff, and the players know they could feel the improvement in the workplace.
Okay.
Yeah.
Somehow they're winning games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like,
Somehow they're winning. Maybe Dan Campbell makes up for some of the deficiencies. I don't know.
yeah. And let's see here. I'm just looking for you, Tatum.
Feelings number 4.
We were like one of the top teams.
Yeah.
They were the 4th ranked team.
Let's see. 4th ranked. Yeah, thanks. Let's see. Okay, here. Philadelphia. The Eagles coaches, training staff, and owner Jeffrey Lurie all received extremely high grades from respondents. They do feel crammed in the back of their plane while the staff sits in first class, and they ask for an upgraded locker room. And here's one thing that we're going to go. There's 2 others. That's all I'm going to say. Number 1, First, I want to say Pittsburgh. Every bit, they're number 28. Every bit of their higher score is Mike Tomlin. All of it. He is the A.
He probably won't be there next year.
Everything else is a C, D, or F.
Oh, wow.
Everything they want is Mike. Beyond him, this is even better. There's no daycare. Forget even paying for it. There's no daycare. They have an outdated weight room and no necessary training staff. And Art Rooney will not do it. He will not pay for this stuff. Oh, and by the way, Washington, the Commanders, leaky sewage in their locker room. And
they rank last. They rank last.
So those are just what I'm saying. This obviously is going to make something about for. It's like the Bears will get somebody, but they're not going to get them because of the taxes in Illinois. But they're going to think about it as long as you get yourself the kind of roster you need.
The Commanders are the same team that had their railings tied up with zip ties. And
fell over.
There was a video of a bunch of fans that almost fell on Jalen Hurts. And then Jalen Hurts wrote a letter to Commissioner Roger Goodell saying that he needed to take fan safety more seriously.
Yeah.
So that was hilarious coming from a 23-year-old at the time, Jalen Hurts.
Yeah.
That right there. And it's a bit of a different animal. Like whenever, say, you have a consistent winning team in college football, like say Alabama, in which the more you win, the more money the school gets, and you can afford these affinity. It's like the owners is kind of right there. If you're like a Robert Kraft, another one that owns a stadium, it's like you got the money. So if they need a gym, okay, that's nothing. Go and put the new gym in on his dime, like that's his team. Jerry Jones, same thing. Outside of that, it's definitely a bit of a different animal than saying college football. But I mean, sewage is no excuse. Come on, Commanders, what are you doing? Sewage, really? Yeah, no wonder people want to leave from there. No wonder Montez and Chase Young were
Montez went to Chicago and felt better.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Montez Sweat is better in Chicago than he was down there.
Yeah. But I want to round this out with Scott and get your thoughts about this. Go ahead, sir.
Well, there's a reason why I'm the senior citizen of this group here. Number one, once upon a time, the Washington Redskins under Daniel Snyder charged the fans admission to see training camp. Number one. Mm-hmm. Number two, okay, I understand what you guys are saying is important, but we're talking the NFL. Did any of these guys, okay, we're talking when you compare it to baseball, where you have the minor leagues, you think things are bad in the NFL. Well, let's not say that the minor league baseball situation where you're driving in buses and hotels and everything is all that great either. I realize that the accommodation should be better in the NFL, and undoubtedly so. But I'm going to give the Commanders a slight pass here because you got Josh Harris now. So I think I know that will change. I think they're also putting $75 million into upgrades or FedEx Field for the moment until they get a handle on their stadium situation. Number two, I get the daycare, but the facilities thing that everybody's talking about is going to get negated because you're having a lot of teams building new practice facilities and they're springing up much quicker as well. So, the players can complain about it's not a great place to work here because of this and that. But you know what? There's 32 teams, folks. You should be thankful that you're playing for one of 32 teams. Let's not go ahead and take it for granted that the NFL isn't a right. It's a privilege to play in that league. And I think that's where a lot of people tend to get really lost in it. Okay, so you have a pool here of 1,700 NFL players, NFLPA. Okay, well, you know what? Tell me that the average individual back in the real world is the average working conditions, working $10 or $15 an hour. And I don't think you're getting an awful lot of sympathy from these people either. So I understand it. I'm not saying it's not important, but people have it a whole lot worse. Now, Miami, I don't know where they've been on this list, but
number one.
And you say they're bad number one?
No, they're number one.
They're number one.
On the list.
They're the worst?
No, they're the best.
One.
They're the best.
Oh, they're the best. Well, what do you want from Stephen Ross, okay?
Yeah.
I mean, the guy built has gone out there and turned Joe Robbie Stadium into one of the best stadiums on the planet. And he's going to spend money all over the place. I mean, this guy owns everything around the area. So Miami should be. And not only that, it doesn't hurt that there's no state income tax here either. So you want to play for Ross, you got no state income tax. The Buccaneers probably can't be that bad. The Jaguars, well, when Tom Coughlin was there, everybody was railroading him everywhere else. So I understood why nobody wanted to play for a Coughlin. But the Dolphins are great. They're number one. But guess what? Okay. How many Super Bowls have they won? What do we grade criteria here? I under facilities and daycare and all that business. But you know what? In the end, we can talk. I like the cake with the frosting, but if I don't have the cherry, it's the worst thing in the world. But facilities are going to get better. They really are going to get better all the way around. Everybody's building them, right? Out in LA. How many times have you heard a new practice facility go ahead and being built? All the weight room. This is the stuff that's coming on as we go along. This report card, okay, to me, is what you see at the moment. And how much are they looking? I mean, to some extent. But in the end, trying to get a job in the NFL, and then we'll see what's more important, the report card or playing in the league. And then we'll see, what you can do there. Okay, because I got news for you. If you're playing in the United Football League or the Canadian Football League, I'd rather maybe play in the NFL, maybe not quite get what I'm supposed to their standards, but give me a spot in the NFL. And that's where I think so many people take it for granted. Daycare. Okay, I get it. It's all important, right? But, let's remember, you're playing for the Shield. You're playing for the league.
Sorry to interject, but it's not about just having a daycare. It's about your 2 teams out of 32, where there's 30 teams that don't charge it. That's what it's about for me. So
right.
If the rest of the league is not doing this, why are you doing it?
Well, right. I'm not discounting that. I'm just using hypotheticals, James, is all I'm talking about. All right.
All right.
I'm not singling out 2 teams. I'm only talking about 2 teams that are off the top of my head about who charges and who doesn't. Okay. But let me ask you a question, James. Okay.
Sure.
We'll talk about the conditions overall in general, right? You want to go ahead and play in the Canadian Football League? Yes or no?
I mean, I don't think that's a valid question for this.
Well, it is a valid question. I'll tell you why. Well, let me go ahead and say what I'm thinking. Okay. To me, what is a report card? Okay. Or let me use a better point. Okay, James. All right. If you're a student that's gone to college, right, and you're a 3.5, 4.0 student in high school, okay, does that necessarily mean that you're a lock to be able to get through college easily? Is that a valid point?
No, but that's not. I don't understand really where you're going with this.
Well, I know.
So just because there's 32 teams and it's a privilege to play in the league, this does not give teams that make millions of dollars an excuse and a pass to have sewage and have people sit back and say, well, there's only 32 teams, so you should be grateful to be here. No, you're a $1 million, $1 billion organization. Do what you got to do to maintain your facilities and don't have sewage and junk and all this stuff happening. There's no excuse for it. So
I'll give you your point on the sewage, okay? Because it's your responsibility to make sure your stadiums are to a point where people can go there and be able to be comfortable in them. I'm going to give you that because I think you're 100% right, okay, on that. So I'm not going to sit here and question it one way or the other. I'm just talking about in general, okay, that, you know what, if we think conditions aren't great now, can you imagine, James, what they were like many years ago?
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Back then, when I was covering the league and I had Don Shula, they had, you think things were bad? What about when you had 2 or 3 day practices, James? You weren't around there to cover them for them, right? 2 or 3 days when you hit hard, okay, and you had to go back 2 or 3 times and you find yourself with CTE, concussions, helmets that weren't as bad. Again, I'm not condoning saying the report cards are not relevant, but who knows what they're going to do with them, and who knows how much is it going to change anyways, right, James? Is there a guarantee that just because you're looking at the report cards that things are automatically going to change? Is there?
Oh, no, I never said that I thought it would. I'm just saying that if teams have the resources available to improve the situation and they're not doing it, That's an
Right.
indictment. That's an indictment against the organization. That's
Right.
not an indictment against the players. That's not an indictment against anyone else. That's an indictment against the people that's at the top. That's an indictment against the ownership.
Well, no matter what sports league you're going to have, okay, you're going to have owner 1 through 32, okay? There's going to be the haves and the have-nots, right? No matter what happens. There's a reason why certain organizations are what they are for a long period of time, the reason why certain ones aren't for a long period of time, right? Let's face the reality. So I understand where you're coming from. I'm not saying the report card isn't valid. And if in a perfect world, everything would be great for all 32, right, James? But it isn't a perfect world, and we're all trying to figure out what a perfect world is, and none of us seem to be able to do it.
As a contractor's kid, I can say this part. If my dad woke up one morning, he's the business, and it was his business. Remember, this is a construction man, and it's his business, and he's walking through the locker room of his new company, of his new NFL stadium, and there's sewage. That's number 1A and 1B are getting fixed.
Right.
That because he was a construction man, and I walked with him around his jobs and everything, even if he was slowing down by that time anyway, but he still did it.
Right.
Everything, checking everything. It's like, this is the thing, and he was slowing down. It's like, you're a billionaire, and there wasn't even that kind of money. You're a billionaire, and you're not walking around, you don't smell that, and it's still happening a year later. That's my point. It's like, that would have been 1A and 1B to fix. First thing. I don't get that.
Well, I mean, let's face the reality. If you're not maintaining your stadium, to me, with sewage or any other construction issues, then you have to get it fixed. But nowadays, they're building stadiums that aren't even lasting 20 or 30 years anymore, right? How many repairs, James? I'm just curious if you know the answer to this question. Are the Vikings having with their brand new stadium that they spent a lot of money for, right? Aren't they having some issues with their stadiums at all recently? I'm just curious. A lot of the newer stadiums are starting to show a lot of wear and tear after 10, 20 years.
Okay.
But yeah, we're spending all this money to build them, right? Yeah. Aren't today's new stadiums supposed to last 40, 50, 60 years, right?
Well, they won't anymore.
Well, that's true.
They won't, because they'll keep getting built. They'll just keep getting built, you know.
Yeah, I mean, but meanwhile, you got cities that have bonds, okay, that they're paying for them, and now we may have to build another stadium. Of course, I won't be alive, and a lot of them do, but you would like to think that a lot of them are what they are. So, 10, 20, 30 years from now, Minnesota's going to have to build another one because the roof isn't waterproof or whatever the case may be. And I'm not trying to stick out the Vikings, but there's a lot of teams that are being questioned about that they had a brand new facility, were promised a Super Bowl. We ended up getting one, so that at least that worked out and brought X amount of dollars into our economy, right? But meanwhile, the stadiums are falling apart. So, I don't know. The report cards are what they are, and I guess the only thing you can hope for is if anybody's looking at them, you would hope and pray that they're going to improve. But I do believe that the Washington situation will improve because Josh Harris has a track record for running first-class organizations there. He does. In fact, what I heard over at the NFL scouting line is he's actually going out there and looking at the quarterbacks, and he's involved with some of his coaching staff. And I have a good friend that's there as well. So.
Well, I sure hope you don't think the Sixers are one of those world-class organizations that he's running, because they're not.
I didn't say that.
Well, we'll get to them another time. We'll definitely will.
Yeah, I didn't mention that, but I don't know the Philadelphia market to sit here and break a commandment that I've always thought about. Thou shalt keep thy foot on the mouth, not on the floor, not thy mouth. Ever heard that one before, James?
Yes, no.
Let me repeat it.
If you need to know about the Sixers, I will tell you whatever you need to know. But
I'm sure you will.
Maybe some other time.
Thou shalt keep thy foot on the ground, not thy mouth. Remember that one, James. Okay, so when I bring on a wild show here, then you'll realize where you have GMTA and then the foot process.
However Jacob feels about the Chicago Bears is how I feel about the Sixers. So I'll wait.
We'll go another show on that one.
Yeah, we got like 13 minutes left. We still got a third topic in Pundit Point. So, And actually, passing on to Scott real quick to pay some bills. Go for it.
All right. Well, I'll go back over it one more time because we're not going to have time later anyhow. But I'll mention it again in case you're just joining us. And also, folks, you can look at everything at the bottom of our ticker. That says a lot if you're watching it visually. But once again, Pundits being broadcast around the world. The audio version of Pundits can be heard on iHeartRadio, Apple, Spotify, Google, wherever you get your podcasts. Please hit the red subscribe button on YouTube, South Florida Tribune. We're striving for more subscribers. Please also comment, like, and share the broadcast. Great. Participate in the chat room. One way to be a guest is by participating in the chat room, or send your topic ideas to southfloridatribune@gmail.com. If you want to advertise cost efficiently, give me a call at 954-304-4941. We broadcast live on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. Our website, www.southfloridatribune.com. Twitter/X @Tribune South. Candy Ebling is producing the show. My book out there is Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders, Old School Media versus New School Media, available on Amazon and Kindle, and I'm looking for more other places to get it as well. So there you go. Denzel, you want to finish out the last topic? Go ahead. We got our business taken care of.
All right. Sounds good. And so now our last topic of the evening, real quick. Bryce Harper asked for an extension 5 years into his 13-year deal. So he originally signed the 13-year, $330 million deal, and he wants to ensure that he retires of Philly. That's his reason for doing it. He's set to be a free agent in 2031. No player has ever asked for an extension this far away from free agency while under contract. Now, on one end of the spectrum, the Phillies, they could, grant it to him just out of goodwill, but it also could be meaningless at the end of the day. They could just say, hey, no, play out the rest of your contract, and then when you're 38, 39, we'll see where you're at. But I want to start off with our guest here, the resident Philadelphia Phillies fan, and get your thoughts about this. Do you think this was unwarranted, or does he have a right to ask for an extension, being he's that guy on the team?
Well, I mean, from a business standpoint, it makes absolutely no sense. I will say that. There's no reason for him to ask for an extension right now. It's 2024. He has 6 or 7 years left on his contract. So it literally makes no sense. However, the standpoint from which he's trying to come from, which is he loves Philly, he wants to be a Philly player, that is what makes the sense in this. So Bryce Harper is a true Philadelphia Philly player. He works hard. He brings it all the time. He's a great leader. And he backs it up with his play. He's been phenomenal. He's took us to the World Series. We've been deep in the last 2 postseasons. But, there's a difference with Bryce and other guys that you've seen with Philadelphia. Big names. Like, I'm talking about recent. He's not Ben Simmons. He's not Carson Wentz.
No.
Not at all.
Jalen Hurts, Bryce Harper. These guys are like true Philadelphia, tough, blue-collar leaders that you can say, yes, he embodies what Philadelphia is about. And he embodies what Philadelphia is about. And he's fallen in love with Philly, and Philly has fallen in love with him. So the Phillies want him to stay, and he wants to stay with the Phillies. But as I said, from a business standpoint, I don't even know why it's a conversation right now. 3, 4, 5 years down the road, maybe you start talking about it then, but I just don't see it.
Yeah, totally understandable. I mean, he does definitely embody what Philadelphia is all about. You figure, guys like him, Embiid had won an MVP in Philly. Those are your top guys out there in that city as far as sports goes. It seems like this is on the fence because, 1 second, Devon Curry. Any company would be shut down if their establishment didn't meet safety and health codes. Washington somehow keeps getting a pass somehow. They should be held accountable and fined.
That's a good one.
There you go. Had to make sure we get these bad boys up. Okay, there you go. There you go, James.
The only thing I disagree, I think Joel Embiid is great, but I don't think he has the Philly toughness like Bryce has and like Jalen Hurts has.
No, totally understandable. Yeah, Jalen Hurts
he has more talent,
and they've taken their teams deeper in the playoffs. That probably is a measuring stick, also. Yep. But want to go to Jacob real quick and get your thoughts about this.
Only thing that worries me about it, there's nothing to be said bad about this guy, James. Nothing. He showed his numbers. He showed everything. He shows toughness. He shows hustle. And I've been seeing him since when he was in high school, and he was basically LeBron James of baseball. And they were talking about him early. It's very hard to hit that kind of expectation. He did it. Now, the only thing I worry about is that he says, well, I'd like to go into my 40s. He's thinking of Roger Federer. See, the Roger Federers and LeBron and all of them are going into their later years, and they basically go in when they want to, and they're playing at high levels. These athletes are now. He's thinking of it, but can his body hold up? It's the only thing I worry about. It's why I like the contract he's at right now and a wait and see. Because he says well, I think I can go play in my 40s. Your body breaks down after 35 like crazy. Unless you're a complete and utter freak of nature. Hopefully he is. But that's the only thing that worries me. It's just the health. It's like, and if you get the health, then your numbers go down. Then people start getting a little bit cranky. But you can't say whatsoever he hasn't earned his contract he's got now. I just worry about extending something as he gets himself older. That's all.
Yeah, you're totally understandable on that one. How much Harper production are you going to get down the line? And well, I guess it's a mystery for anybody until they get there. And lastly, want to round out with Scott real quick on your thoughts about Bryce Harper asking for an early extension.
Well, number one, I build a ball club around Bryce Harper all day long. I love this guy. This guy could play in any era. I don't care what era he play anywhere. I got to tell you a funny story, though, James. Many years ago, I was going to try to get an interview with Steve Carlton. There's no way he was going to do it, but I thought I'd take a crack at it at old Jack Russell Stadium. Not really considered a great area in Clearwater. Obviously, they moved it off of, I believe it's, I don't remember what road it is, but the main one. But it's irrelevant where the new stadium is at. But I knew what we were going to get there. So, who I ended up getting an interview with, James? Von Hayes. Hey, 6'1". You got to be worth the amount of money players that we ended up. I said, there's my story right there, James. And Von Hayes was gracious, gave me a great interview. It was unbelievable. And I'm telling you.
That's amazing. Yeah,
it was. But John was great. He said, I'll live up to it. I'm not worried about it. I like to be challenged, and these people are definitely going to do it. Okay. Von Hayes, if you're out there, you're listening to me, I remember you. I love you. And I'll tell you what, to me, I guess when you talk about Philadelphia, the word love is pretty common. Okay. Now, with that said, perhaps the next contract extension that Bryce Harper should get would be a piece of the Phillies. Maybe we might be talking something there. Buy a piece of the action, 5 or 10% of the stock, and let him be part owner, right? Because I'll tell you what, if there's ever a player that embodies a blue-collar town, Bryce Harper is it. Yeah, you wonder about the long-term durability. We all know that Miguel Cabrera wasn't the same on the back of his deal. Albert Pujols struggled a little bit. I'm wondering about Mike Trout's durability over the long haul. Those big contracts really never work out. But come on, Bryce is Bryce. Remember, James, I cover the Marlins down here in Miami, and I've seen this guy play a lot. And one of my favorite calls in broadcasting about Bryce Harper, where did he hit it? Where did he hit it? Deep. And believe me, he's done that a lot down in downtown Miami. So, 5 years into it, I don't know. I mean, if he wants to be there, do it. Who knows what the amount's going to be worth? Is he willing to take a home down discount early, or is he going to get it later? Those are things that only the Phillies can determine about what the value is. And I agree with you. Okay, that Joel Embiid, maybe not at Philadelphia, tough. And who's the other guy that you brought up? I'm trying to remember. Who?
Jalen Hurts.
Jalen Hurts, I don't know. I still need to see a little bit more time on him before I'm going to formulate an opinion. But I love Bryce Harper. You're not going to get me saying anything bad about this guy. I hope he stays in Philadelphia forever. I really do. And I hope that when he does, that he gets a statue there as well. Were you ever at the old Veterans Stadium at all, James?
No, I was not.
I don't think he was even born with that.
It was an interesting place to say the least. Okay, it was. I've been to the old Philadelphia Spectrum and Veterans Stadium. They were definitely interesting. So, more power to Bryce. That's all I can say.
Absolutely. And so with that being said, we're getting near wrap-up time. We're going to go ahead and swing it to our guy, Scott Motor City Mad Mouth for the wrap-up. I'm getting all tongue twisted here. I probably got dry mouth. I need to get a swig of water. But Scotty, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Denzel. Well job and great having you on, James. Looking forward to the next time you get on here as well. All right, I'm going to go ahead and get my pun. I'm going to make it really brief, but this is a somber one, unfortunately. All right, rest in peace, Stacy Wakefield. She died at the age of 53 due to pancreatic cancer. My heart goes out to their children, their teenage children. Tim Wakefield died 5 months ago, I believe at the age of 57. due to a brain cancer. So you want to talk about a sombering story. I really feel for the children and losing both their parents in their 50s. This is just unfortunate, the unfortunate nature of sport. So prayers to the Wakefield family, and rest in peace with both Tim Wakefield and Stacy Wakefield. All right, James, Pundit's point.
Pundit's point, since we're on the subject of the Phillies, I actually want to say that I'm disgusted with the Phillies organization because they announced today that they're getting rid of the $1 hot dog nights at the games. And that was one of my favorite things to go to the game. It was the best during the summertime on a summer evening. Get a hot dog, watch the game. $1, you can't beat it. So I'm disappointed, man. So the inflation and the prices of everything is going up, and they took my $1 dog nights from me, man. So I'm disappointed. But yeah, that's what I'm frustrated about.
I really feel bad for you. I really do. My goodness.
The
last hot dog I had at a ballpark, by the way, was in the press box. But I understand that, dollar dogs are good. And when you go to a ballpark where they gouge you for food, get that $1 dog, my friend. I'm with you. I can see where that would hurt a bit. All right, I'll turn it over to Denzel.
All right, so real quick. So Jets cornerback Sauce Gardner and the team, the Jets, think that wide receiver McCole Hardman leaked game plans to Chiefs and Eagles before their games. Bear in mind that they both were close games. The Jets had actually beaten the Eagles and handed them their first loss. And they also lost to Kansas City. They should have beaten Kansas City, but I'm going to keep my thoughts to myself on that one. You have to go look at some old episodes of Gauntlet to find my take on that one. The belief is that Hardman was salty on playing time. Until more comes out, I don't believe this. I think this is a team that, the year didn't turn out the way that they wanted to for obvious reasons. But, hey, there's always next year. But, for the time, I'm not buying into it. I'm not saying that that's a reason or anything like that. McCole Hardman just wasn't a good fit, and his home is in Kansas City. It is what it is. All right, Jacob.
I hope that George Eichhorn's not reading this one here, but I'm going to let you go ahead and say it. Read it.
Yeah. Okay.
Go ahead.
Quickly. And I'm going to say this.
Well, wait a minute. You got to go to the chat.
Oh, yeah. Enjoyed the back and forth between Scott and James. Made for a great show. Good job, fellas. You darn straight it did.
All right, James. We have a little bit of a boxing match between Scott and James. Does it compare to Apollo, Creed, and Rocky? I'm way too overweight.
Yeah, but did James even feel his punches? No. No
comment. And that's something that comes from a player. Go ahead.
Here's the thing. Richard Sherman, Pat Mahomes Sr., anybody else who wants to think of this DUI. This is more than one. DUI, driving under the influence. Let me say this, folks. Uber exists. You're acting like 2-year-olds. I want to drink. I want to drink. I want to do it again. Drink more. I don't care what pain you might have. You everything. Go to an Uber. Do it at home. Something. Go get a hooker. I don't care. Quit putting people's lives on the line for your selfishness. I got to say this. I don't understand alcohol myself or even the big amounts. I don't. But at some point, you're going to have to grow up. Both of you and many of you that do DUIs, that do this whole thing. If you're going to drink extra, you're not going to listen on a thing. At least get an Uber, but quit being selfish. This is getting stupid.
Well done. All right. Everybody get their pundit's point in?
They did.
Yep.
All right. Well, with that said, this is part of the show where we'll let everybody know they get all of them. And we'll lead it off with our guest here, James Tatum. All right, James, go ahead.
What are we doing?
How can they
What
get
everybody find you?
What shows we're on?
Oh, you guys can find me on, I guess, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, everything, James Tatum, and watch the Gauntlet tomorrow. Going to be a great episode.
Well done. Okay, Jacob, Cliff Notes version.
Oh, yeah. Let's see, 5 shows a week. One of them when I'm off the bench for Gauntlet. And I've also on South Florida and Sideline Sports for writing. And then a couple of things are on the way.
And just so Jacob Christer knows, and Denzel, I hope you're available. There will be a professor and pupil if you're both available on Sunday. We haven't had that show in a while, so I hope you guys can join us for professor and the pupil. All right, you're going to be available, Denzel, for your one cameo appearance a month on Sunday?
Yep, I'll be there. So
Thanks.
that being said, yep, Professor and the Pupil, Sunday morning. Also, Denzel Sniper 13 on Twitch, Denzel Snipes 13 on YouTube, Denzel Snipes on Facebook as well. Catch the gauntlet tomorrow. Got a loaded show.
Well, I said my piece, and for those that are watching, well, it's down at the bottom. Another thing I should point out is check out SidelineSportsNet.com. Great website. Candy Abilene's designed it. She's designed the South Florida Tribune. And these organizations are working extremely well together, and we have plans to do a lot more things together. So, Candy, great job. We appreciate JB Ellis and John Shearer and the rest of the group over there to providing us with a plethora of talent that goes on different shows. And I really enjoy the relationship, but we have a lot more stuff ahead of us. So, with that said, coming up after Pundits Pundit, we have Fire Up. Candy Abilene leads the crew over there. And Candy, you want to give us a real preview of what you're going to be talking about before we call it a night?
Let me get on screen here. Get on screen and sound. Yes. We are going to be talking about the NFL thinking about trying to ban hits below the knee. We're going to also be talking about the Pac-12. And we're going to talk about Caitlin Clark. And do we think her success will translate into the WNBA? And what influence will she have on young girls trying to emulate her?
There you go. So immediately after Pundits Pundit, Candy Abilene leads the crew there. So on behalf of Jacob Christner, James Tatum, Denzel Sykes, myself, Scott Morgan, the Motor City Madmouth, I want to thank you very much for joining us on this edition of Pundits Pundit. We will see you next week, same time, same station. Have yourself a great week, everybody. And once again, James, great to have you on and look forward to bringing you back. Thank you very much. Good night, everybody.